Have you ever noticed how the world keeps spinning, even when you feel like you're standing completely still? You wake up, you go through the motions, you see the sunset, and you wonder if anyone would notice if your part in the whole show just stopped. It's a quiet, heavy feeling, not despair exactly, just a deep, settled stillness. A sense that the current is moving everyone else along, but you're caught in an eddy, just circling. I remember this man. He wasn't anyone famous. He was a woodworker in a small town tucked away where the hills began to fold into mountains. Every morning, before the sun had a chance to burn off the fog, he'd be in his workshop. The air smelled of sawdust and varnish, a scent that clung to his clothes and his skin. He had this routine. He'd make his coffee, black, in a chipped ceramic mug, and just stand there for a moment, watching the light slowly fill the dusty space. He was making chairs. But not just any chairs. He had a design in his head, something he'd sketched on a napkin years ago. It was a chair that was supposed to be perfect not just in its balance or its comfort, but in its very soul. He believed the chair could hold a story. He'd been working on the first one for 7 years. His friends, they'd all moved on. One became a manager at the local plant, another moved to the city and was selling real estate. They'd come back for holidays with their new cars and stories of promotions. They'd visit his workshop, pat him on the back. They'd look at the same unfinished chair frame, the same stacks of seasoned wood. "Go at it, huh?" they'd say. And he'd just nod, forcing a smile. He could see the pity in their eyes. The unspoken question, when are you going to give this up and get a real job? He saw it in his own reflection sometimes. The doubt. It wasn't a loud, angry voice. It was a quiet whisper that came late at night, when the only sound was the house settling. What if you're just wasting your life? What if this design is flawed? What if you're not good enough to make it? He'd run his hands over the wood, feeling the grain, the imperfections. He'd trace the joints he'd cut, and would cut 100 times. He'd thrown away more wood than he kept. Each piece that wasn't perfect felt like a personal failure. He felt invisible, like his time didn't count on the same clock as everyone else's. The world was about speed, about results. And all he had was a dusty workshop and a chair that refused to be born. There were days he wouldn't even touch the wood. He'd just sit on a stool, nursing his cold coffee and stare. The pressure wasn't from anyone else, not really. It was from the silence. The silence was filled with the ghosts of everything he hadn't achieved. He'd started to measure his life in saw blades he'd dulled, in sandpaper worn smooth, in years that piled up like sawdust in the corners. He was so focused on the destination, the finished chair, that the journey had become a blur of repetitive, frustrating motion. He felt like he was digging a hole, and with every shovel of dirt, the sky just seemed farther away. One afternoon, a storm rolled in. The sky turned a bruised purple, and the rain came down in sheets, hammering against the tin roof of his workshop. The power went out. He was plunged into a gray, drumming darkness. He couldn't work. He couldn't see. He couldn't do anything but sit there and listen to the storm. And in that forced stillness, something shifted. He wasn't looking at the chair anymore. His gaze drifted to the tools hanging on the wall. The chisels, their edges sharpened to a nearer finish. The hand planes, worn smooth by his own grip. Each tool was an extension of his own hands. He thought about the thousands of hours he'd spent learning how each one felt, how it cut, how it behaved with different types of wood. He thought about the seasons he'd spent learning the wood itself, how oak would split if he rushed it, how cherry would darken with age. He hadn't just been trying to build a chair. He had been learning. The 7 years weren't a delay. They were an education. Every mistake, every discarded piece of wood wasn't a failure. It was a lesson. He wasn't failing at building a chair. He was succeeding at becoming a master of his craft. The waiting, the frustration, the endless repetition, that was the price. The price for a kind of knowledge you can't get from a book. It's a knowledge that gets into your hands, into your bones. What he had seen as a prison of his own making was actually the training ground. The delay wasn't a punishment. It was the preparation. The world hadn't forgotten him. It had given him the one thing nobody else gets, time. The storm passed. The light that came after was clean, sharp. He stood up. He walked over to the chair frame. He ran his hand along the curve of the back leg. For the first time, he didn't see the imperfections. He didn't see the 7 years of struggle. He saw the story. And he knew, with a certainty that settled deep in his gut, that he was ready. He picked up a chisel, and the sound of it tapping against the wood was different now. It wasn't the sound of struggle, it was the sound of purpose. He wasn't trying to control the wood anymore. He was working with it. He wasn't fighting against time. He was using it. He finished the chair 3 months later. It was beautiful, but that's not the point of the story. The chair was just a chair. The real work had been done inside it. How many of us are waiting for a storm to force us to be still? How many of us are looking at our own unfinished work, our own perceived delays, and seeing only failure? Maybe the most important work is the work that no one sees. Maybe the thing you think is holding you back is actually the very thing that is building you. What if this season of waiting isn't a detour, but the path itself? What if you're not delayed? What if you are, right now, in the middle of your own becoming?